Engagement is defined as the amount of time children spend interacting appropriately with their environment. Children learn by looking, touching, tasting, telling, and smelling. These are all action things, but in order for the child to learn, they must be actively involved. Engagement doesn't mean a child will learn, but it sets the stage in order for the child to learn. A teacher can measure engagement by seeing how long a child stays involved with an activity, both observing and participating, but also measuring how the child makes decisions with an activity and how focused a child is with the activity. If a child is intensely focused, in-depth learning happens. Sometimes a disability can impede that engagement process, but it doesn't say how much that child has learned from the activity. Teachers should facilitate an activity, provide direct assistance when needed, and be a positive force during the activity. Redirect as needed, monitor the learning, and make sure that they have planned a purposeful lesson. We have heard that practice makes perfect, and this is extremely true for children. The more a child practices a skill, the more likely they will master the skill. Children desire routine. Using an activity mini-schedule gives them the security of knowing what happens next. They stay engaged because they know what is going to happen next, and it could be their favorite part of the schedule. Giving children that instant gratification of finishing a task also teaches them to persevere until they have completed the task. Scaffolding is very important when building skills. This allows the teacher to start at the level of a child and then make the activity harder to keep the child engaged. Computers or tablets are another way to increase engagement because children are exposed to technology more now than ever before. And we as teachers need to adapt to a more technology-friendly classroom. There are a variety of games that build skills by getting harder or offer repetitive practice of a mastered skill. Teachers do, however, need to monitor the use of technology in order to ensure that it's being used appropriately and continues to remain a beneficial learning tool. When we talk about inclusion means different things to different people. The book defines it as the practice of placing children with special needs in the same programs as their typically developing peers and providing them with specially designed instruction and supports. Inclusion is seen as best practice for all children. Research has shown that children who are normally developing and have children who are not normally developing in their classroom build conflict resolution, cooperation, citizenship skills, and create an environment where everyone is part of the community. This can be challenging because it requires several factors in order to be successful. An inclusive environment needs to have differentiated instruction for all students and accommodations for those who require them. For example, a child with dysgraphia can still participate normally in a language arts lesson, but may require to write less than their classmates. For children with learning delays who are taking an assessment, they may be given more time to complete the assessment, more frequent breaks during the assessment, a different location for the assessment to take place, and they can have directions read to them out loud and allow them to clarify as needed with questions or having the proctor repeat the directions. Collaboration is necessary for inclusion. Having a team that makes educational choices is a good option because each team member will bring a different set of skills to the table, and all team members have the child's best interests in mind, hopefully. All of the staff who work with the child need to work together in order to provide instruction that is most beneficial, but also the other learners in the classroom need to understand that everyone doesn't learn the same, and some may need additional help in order to complete an activity. Consultation between a general education teacher, regardless of early childhood or primary age children, and a special education teacher should happen during inclusion. This is going to give support to the general education teacher in best practice and offer other ways of learning, because the education of a general education teacher and a special education teacher is going to be very different. Teachers are always offered ongoing training, but again, what is being offered to the general education teacher and the special education teacher is going to be very different. Inclusion with infants, toddlers, and preschoolers is a little bit more tricky because of the amount of support a child with disabilities requires versus those of a normally developing child. Sometimes this causes too much disruption to a normally developing child's learning because there is not enough support in the inclusive environment for the child with a disorder. Children who have pervasive development disorders like autism, Asperger's, or other degenerative disorders require more direct instruction that requires the breakdown of skills into smaller steps, because their weaknesses in social skills and communication skills are much more than those of a normally developing child. These children will benefit from an activity mini schedule because their desire for routine is so great. Children with cognitive delays or mental retardation require more adult direction in activities, and they often prefer to sit back and watch their peers play instead of interacting with them. They will have different communications and social skills, which will often lead them to be the last one out. So offering toys that encourage socialization is good for them. For example, giving them a ball during outside play gives them an opportunity to play catch with another child. Inclusion with primary age children is going to be different than early childhood education inclusion, but it's going to be similar. Primary age students will have different goals, and what the general education teacher wants might be different than what the special education teacher wants for them. This will require more time to collaborate in order to create a unified team with common goals. Communication is key. It needs to happen regularly and not just in times of crisis. This way, potential problems are addressed before it occurs. Sometimes using a checklist that clearly defines the roles of all involved is a good communication tool. Families will also have concerns when it comes to primary age students, and their concerns involve the physical environment, the attitudes of other children, either intentionally or unintentionally, also staff, and the physical limitations that impact the completion of tasks. When we look at 504 plans are different than an IEP or an IFSP. These are written for children who do not qualify for special education services but have a disability that impedes learning. They are given services under Section 504. This is a civil rights statute that prohibits public or private schools that receive federal funding from discriminating against children who have a mental or physical impairment. These services can be similar to those provided to a child on an IEP or an IFSP and will revolve around the child's diagnosis. So to end my presentation, I would like you guys to complete a discussion board post. I would like to know how you would increase the engagement of toddlers and preschoolers with special needs in either a home or in a center-based program. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed.